The Indian Prime Minister Narendra Modi is now headed to Myanmar, where he is tipped to address the Rohingya issue as well and take up at the issue of deportation of the ethnic minority with the government of de facto leader Aung San Suu Kyi. Besides signing of agreements, engagement with the Indian diaspora and visits to landmarks of historical importance with India links is on the PM's cards. WION's China Xiamen spoke to the Dr. Venkatesh, Vice President, Myanmar India Chamber of Commerce.
Joined by Dr. Venkatesh, Vice President of Myanmar India Chamber of Commerce. So, Prime Minister Narendra Modi is going to be visiting the capital in the Yangon. You know, what are the expectations of the Indian community in terms of business? Because Indians have been active for past more than 150, 200 years. Then Burma and now Myanmar. And in past 35, 40 years have been difficult for them.
Yes, actually the Indian community in Myanmar is one of the largest Indian origin community outside India. We have over 2 million plus Indian origin people representing different geographical parts of India, starting from Tamil Nadu, Andhra or Bihar, Uttar Pradesh, from Rajasthan, from Gujarat. People have come all over from there a couple of centuries back or a century back, brought by the British to Myanmar. The backdrop is Minglaba Modiji, which is welcome Modiji to Myanmar by the Indian community. We are having a large event in Yangon in the next 2 days, and we are looking at one of the biggest gatherings of Indian community which has ever happened.
You know, when we talk about business, you know, there have been a couple of business projects, and for example, one of the business projects is like creating a corridor. Yes. You live here. But that corridor passes through an area which is very disturbed. It's the Rohingya issue which is affecting India, Bangladesh and other places. Yeah. So is there some resolution in sight in terms of, you know, ensuring that Indian project or the whole idea of look east, politics, you know, policy, at least, you know, concretizes?
Yeah, actually I think there is a small geographical distance. The Rohingya issue is not concerning us. It is between Bangladesh and Myanmar. We are talking about, which is actually a Bengali issue, not a Rohingya issue. We are talking about the connectivity, the trilateral connectivity between Manipur and Manipur, Imphal, and there is even the Cabinet Committee of Infrastructure has agreed for a major upgrade for the Manipur-Moreh border, and which will connect Myanmar to the ASEAN countries.
But passing through certain areas which are not very peaceful.
Actually, in the Myanmar side, it is very peaceful. On the Indian side, we are hoping that it would get to be under control shortly. More this trilateral connectivity both by the road, which will make a common common man's business happen, as well as the sea connectivity. We are looking at a major impetus after this trip for a sea connectivity around Bay of Bengal, and we are looking at ports of Calcutta, Vizag, Chennai being connected to Yangon faster.
And last question to you: do you think that Indian business communities, which was shortchanged after everything was nationalized in Myanmar, requires some sort of help in the sense, because successive governments from India have taken different positions vis-a-vis its commitment towards human rights and democracy and the ground reality of the regime in Myanmar. Do you think that in that process somewhere the people of Indian origin also suffered?
Yeah, you can say that. You can say that. But right now it is a democracy in Myanmar, and things are changing fast and changing for good. And we are looking to work and get amalgamated. I mean, the Indian origin people who are here are working within the system, and they are moving up. What we need is skill development, a kind of cultural relationship, and a connectivity and an infrastructure. I think the rest would automatically be taken care by the community and its members, who are very hardworking people. Who have been brought in to do agriculture and different things. Now, if we can teach them on what Modiji is doing in India for soil tests and all that, if we can have that brought in here, that would be a major help. That is what the community is looking at, actually.
Well, hope the problems which you're talking about get solved. So these are the issues of the Indian community in Myanmar, and Indian community is spread all over Myanmar. It's not limited to Yangon. Go to any state, historical association, colonial association, pre-colonial association, religious association, it exists. And I think being Myanmar, which shares boundary with both China and India, is critically important because of the Chinese influence and especially in the context of the belligerence on part of China in various parts of the world. Sure. With camera person Manish Srivastav, Kartikeya Sharma for WION from Yangon. Prime Minister Narendra Modi is on a 2-day tour in Myanmar.
Mingalaba Modiji, which is welcome Modiji to Myanmar.
He'll be meeting the heads of various departments of the government of Myanmar.
It is also part of Act East policy of Prime Minister.
Indian community in Myanmar is one of the largest Indian origin community outside India.
Watch coverage on India's Prime Minister visit to Myanmar only on WION.
The United Nations Security Council held an emergency session after North Korea's nuclear test. Speaking first, the United States has called on the Security Council to impose strongest sanctions yet on Pyongyang. The U.S. ambassador to the United Nations, Nikki Haley, said that North Korea, through its acts, is begging for war. And the time has come to exhaust all diplomatic means. The United States has put forward a fresh proposal to contain North Korea, which is expected to be discussed by the members this week and will be put forward for a vote the next Monday.
The agenda is adopted.
His abusive use of missiles and his nuclear threats show that he is begging for war. But our country's patience is not unlimited. We will defend our allies and our territory. The time has come to exhaust all diplomatic means to end this crisis. And that means quickly enacting the strongest possible measures here in the UN Security Council. Only the strongest sanctions will enable us to resolve this problem through diplomacy. The United States will look at every country that does business with North Korea as a country that is giving aid to their reckless and dangerous nuclear intentions. The stakes could not be higher. The urgency is now.
Over to Europe now, where the European Stop Rights Court has ruled that employers cannot snoop on their employees' private conversation, and this unless they inform them of monitoring their emails and chat conversations in advance. The ruling pertains to a 38-year-old Romanian Bogdan Mihai who was sacked over using company's official communication system for private use. He was sacked after being found to have chatted with his fiancée and brother on the system. The judges said that Barbulescu's bosses and Romanian courts had not adequately protected his right to respect for his private life. We need to cut immediately live to the Prime Minister, the Indian Prime Minister Narendra Modi, which is now landed in this very moment in Myanmar. We can see him stepping out of the official airplane and saluting the dignitaries waiting for him. He's scheduled to have mostly cultural events in his first day. This is the first visit that the Indian Prime Minister pays to a country which is more and more critique for India. This because of the Rohingya situation which is happening right now. Let's remember, for the benefit of our viewers, that the Myanmarese government is currently cracking down on Rohingya Muslims living in the eastern state of Rakhine, and India is home to as many as 40,000, and this is the official figure, 40,000 Rohingya Muslims. It is believed to be a higher number, but the UNHCR provides this number, and they live in India since years. Obviously, the Rohingya issue is going to be one of the protagonists of the bilateral meeting that the Prime Minister, the Indian Prime Minister Narendra Modi, will address when in Myanmar. Today, as I said, he will mostly participate in cultural events. He will also talk and meet the Indian diaspora and visit the Bahadur Shah Mausoleum because it has a strong link with Indian history, and this is a way to pay honor to a sort of a common thread of history between two nations. Myanmar is perhaps one of the most critical countries right now, not only for the Rohingya, but it is located between India and China, having and sharing borders with both countries. And Narendra Modi, the Prime Minister, the Indian Prime Minister, is coming directly from China, where he was attending the BRICS summit. During the BRICS summit, in, I would say, an historical declaration, China pledged to be absolutely willing to start a wave of friendly relations with India. They said, Xi Jinping, Chinese president, said that it is very important that the border issue gets solved and all the border rivalries stop, and the stability and the peace on the border between India and China needs to be taken for granted. This happens in a particularly heated moment because, as we can remember, for more than 70 days India and China were part of a standoff in Doklam, an area both the countries claim to be their own territory, and especially Beijing was sending troops and building roads in this junction between India, China and Bhutan. This went on for 73 days, and then both the countries agreed to withdraw their troops. We will keep track of Prime Minister Narendra Modi's move and dialogues and meetings in Myanmar through our political editor, who is currently in Yangon. Kartikeya Sharma will follow for us and for all our viewers exactly what happens step by step regarding the Prime Minister's visit. I would like to remind our viewers that this is the first time that the Prime Minister Narendra Modi visits Myanmar, and it is a moment where India and Myanmar shares, I would define it, a problem, which is the management of the so-called Rohingya crisis. The Rohingya is a Muslim ethnicity living in the southeastern state of Myanmar, the Rakhine state along the Naf River, not far from the Bangladesh city of Cox's Bazar. Many Rohingya Muslims are currently living in India, some in Delhi, in the capital city of Delhi, some 100 kilometers from Delhi in one of the refugee camps, and some others in Jammu, as many as 40,000. And I'm told that we are joined live right now by our political editor Kartikeya Sharma, who reached Yangon ahead the visit of the Indian Prime Minister Narendra Modi to track all the latest on this historical visit. Myanmar right now is crucial, especially when it comes also to China and India relations. Let's not forget that the Indian Prime Minister Narendra Modi comes directly from China, where he was attending the BRICS summit, and the Chinese President Xi Jinping said that he is absolutely willing to begin a wave of politically friendly relations with India, and he also pledged the necessity and subscribed to the necessity of keeping the border stands at bay. And this is particularly important in a moment where both India and China are coming out from a long standoff in Doklam. As long as more than 70 days, for more than 70 days, the two nations were face to face in an area both considers part of their territory, especially China considers part of its territories, and it was beginning to build a road. Okay, I'm joined now, right now, on the phone by our political editor in Yangon, Kartikeya Sharma. Kartikeya, thank you very much for joining me. So the Indian Prime Minister has landed. For the benefit of our viewers, could you sum up the expectations from this visit?
See, the most important part of this visit is that the Prime Minister is negotiating, engaging with both, I would say, the democracy leaders and military. Prime Minister is not differentiating between both of them, for the simple reason that India has paid a price by, supporting human rights groups or democratic processes as its commitment, and Chinese influence have gone. So the new policy initiative is you engage with the government of the day, you encourage both the sides to talk, but India should not take sides. That is why he will first go to the council where there will be official state dinner. He will meet military leadership, he will meet Aung San Suu Kyi. He will not differentiate between anyone, because what he has done is to put India's interests first. Secondly, it is important that he is going to create a cultural connect. India and Myanmar had been culturally connected for hundreds of years. You would be surprised to know that the first legal draft during the Burmese dynasty was actually inspired from one of the Indian classical texts in Sanskrit. Secondly, most of the Indian freedom fighters, they were imprisoned in places like Mandle and Rangoon. Bal Gangadhar Tilak spent 6 years in Mandle. Rabindranath Tagore used to stay in Rangoon. Azad Hind Fauj, its headquarters was in Yangon. So, this is very, very important visit in terms of investment also. There's a freight economic project, and this project has an investment of $70 million on part of India, Daniel. So I would say, Daniel, that it's a very, very important visit.
And how big is the Indian diaspora, if you were to give us a number, Kartikeya? Are they living only in Yangon? Do they live all across the country? What kind of people they are? What jobs do they do?
Indian diaspora is not less than 20 lakhs. And, you have Tamils, Biharis, people from Uttar Pradesh who have all migrated to this place. Some on their own, some by labor, some became traders. Marwari family. I met a Marwari family which came to Yangon in 1870 to do business here. So there's a strong cultural connect. I was taken to Bahadur Shah Zafar's resting place, the last emperor of Mughal dynasty, and there were Indians who were taking care of it. So India has a lot to share with Myanmar. Problem is, we have ignored our neighbor. You would be surprised, Daniel, that a straight flight to Yangon can take only 2 hours 15 minutes. When I traveled to Yangon, I was given the choice. I had to fly to Singapore, Kuala Lumpur, or Bangkok to come to Yangon. That is the tragedy of Indo-Myanmar's relationship with Modi. Want to correct. If you want to connect with people, at least have your infrastructure in place. And I expect certain of these soft announcements this time around.
Thank you very much, Kartikeya Sharma. He will obviously, for all of us, keep tracking the movement and the decisions and the discussions that the Indian Prime Minister Narendra Modi will have today and tomorrow in Myanmar.